And we are live on Facebook and LinkedIn. I'm going to just click the button to go live over on Instagram. And we are live on Instagram. Hello, disruptors. How are you? This is your girl, Selena, aka the Disruptor Coach, with my lovely friend, accountability partner, Coach Padre, whatever names we could come up with for us this evening. And we is Tyree a little bit, but we got this.
Okay.
We got this.
Yeah.
Grateful for Coach Naimah to be on with us today. She's going to be talking to us. First of all, she is a Muslim strategist. I love, love, love that. I can't wait to hear all about that. She is going to talk to us
Yeah.
about $1 million lifestyle and getting to the bag, people. So
Yeah.
we have some questions here, but my spirit is telling me that I don't know how we're going to get to those questions, all of these questions. But we'll
I
see.
love
We do have a hard stop. We are going to be stopping at 7:50. Does that still hold for you,
Yep.
Naima?
Still holds. Yep. That's good.
All righty then. So with that being said, what I like to start with is, how do you show up in the world?
How do I show up in the world? Number one, as myself. Let me just say that I show up as myself, and myself is, I am of course, a wife, a mother. I'm a triathlete. I'm a coach, certified Hello 7 certified coach, and I'm a Muslim $1 million strategist. And when I say strategist, it's all about strategy when it comes to making sure that you can get to the money, right? Because the money is important. And today we're going to be talking about getting to the bag. But I also show up in the world as a peacemaker, someone who is really into making sure that there's peace throughout the world, peace in my environment, peace around people. I also show up in the world as a volunteer. I love to volunteer with various nonprofit organizations. I volunteer buku with my places of worship. Um, I love to show up as an athlete in various circles. I'm not a um, Olympic type athlete, but health and fitness is very important to me. Eating well is important to me, so I like to show up in that way. I think I'm a great friend. I think I'm a great wife and a great mother, so I like to show up in that kind of way. And then I like to show up in a way that I can always help other people. And in helping other people, I'm extending the help also to myself. So that's how I like to show up.
Ashe. And if I could piggyback on that, what I see and what I've always seen from the first time that I laid eyes on you is the beautiful light
Yeah,
that shines in you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, for real. And so that's what attracted me to you. Absolutely, your aura was just like, oh,
Thank you so much.
I need to be friends with her.
Okay, I love it.
Connector, such a connector. Well, let's just stay in that vein about $1 million lifestyle and getting to the bag. Let's talk about it.
Yeah.
What does that mean? What does that look
Oh
like?
man, I love so of course, as you know, and for people who don't know, $1 million lifestyle is something that we do at Hello 7, and it is actually a practice where you basically start looking at your life and what could it be, what would the reality of it be, meaning that you have no limitations on what your life can look like. And this, what I've learned through coaching recently is that this is very difficult for people. It's very difficult for them to think broad in the sense of reality and thinking in a way that is limitless.
Mhm.
So people are always doing like, so we'll go through this exercise where the $1 million lifestyle is you're going through what would your life look like if you had all the money that you needed to have the lifestyle that you wanted. What would your house look like? Like, what would your car be? What would would you have a manicurist for your lawn? And would you have a chef? And would you have a massage, a masseuse to come to your house regularly? Or would
Yes,
you go and get a masseuse regularly? Would you go to the spa? All these different things.
yes.
And what I found is that when people start talking about those things, they get very uncomfortable because they'll say, well, right now, and I always have to remind them, we're not talking about right now. We're talking about in the reality where if you did have the money, and you didn't have to think twice about it. And it just reminds me that we live a life where we have so many limiting thoughts, and those limiting thoughts are what keep us from getting to the bag, right? So going through this exercise of like what size would the house be, what style would it be, what kind of furniture would you have inside of it, uh,
Right.
how many rooms, how many bathrooms, do you have a pool, do you have an exercise room, all of these different things. And then thinking about your car, your self care, who lives in the home with you, how many levels is it, is it a multi-generational home, how many, when you're thinking about money, even, are you saving money, are you spending money, are you vacationing, and all of these different things. So adding these things up, and on average, most of the people that I've coached within the
Mhm.
last couple of months, their average lifestyle to be living the millionaire lifestyle has been anywhere from about 24,000 to $65,000. And so uh some of them are like, wait, what's going on? And I was like, it's not that big of a deal, because money is, of course, we know money is limitless, and
Mhm.
it will come to you if you open your energy and your aura into accepting it into your life. And so even if you think about someone living a lifestyle of $65,000 a year, that's okay. Because if you're a millionaire or more, you know that you're making $83,333 a month, right? And so that $65,000 is taking away from the $83,333 a month, but you still will have an excess of over $20,000. And so you still have money to do, again, investments, whatever you want to do, but hopefully you calculated that into that 65,000 or the 20,000 or whatever. And then when people start looking at, okay, how far away am I from that lifestyle, right? And so if you're making $15,000 a month now, if you're making $8,000 a month now, let's just say if you're making $20,000 and your ideal lifestyle is 45,000, well, guess what? You're only $25,000 away. So what I then do is I take that $25,000 and I put it to the side. And then I ask them, so tell me what you want to do in life. And when I ask them about what they want to do in life, it's really about focusing on number one, what are you passionate about? What makes you happy? When you say it, it brings you joy, right? And
Absolutely.
that thing bringing you joy, does it also have a sense of, is it in demand, right? And so thinking about, yeah, it might be in demand, because sometimes we create businesses that are jobs,
For sure. For
because a
sure.
business is only a business if you are employing people. A job means that only you are working in it. So that's one thing we also need to make sure we make the distinction of. So are you creating something that is, of course, in demand? Because sometimes people say like, oh, you know what, I really want to sell these red pot holders. Is that in demand? Right. And so we want to make sure that, number one, we enjoy what we're going to be doing. Is it in demand? Is it going to transform lives? Right. And so I like to also take them through, what kind of transformation would you want to have with this specific product and or service? And then lastly, I was like, okay, so let's calculate that. So one of the examples that I love to use, which is really, really quick, is the brownie example. And so
Mm.
I said, if you had only a little bit of time every single day to make brownies. Say, for instance, you made 6 pans of brownies, every,
Mhm.
meaning 7 days a week. And each of those brownies basically renders 12 brownies, right? So essentially, you're making about 72 brownies per day, right?
Okay.
Or per week. And then if you multiply those, you're selling each brownie basically like $10, right? At the end of the week, literally, you would have made $5,000. This mind you, this is all gross money. This isn't anything that is net, right? Because you have to pay for supplies and all of that different stuff. But $5,000, right? And for the 5,000, if you think about making that every single week, you could literally be making $260,000 for a year just making brownies, right? That's a lot of money, right? But then how can you get to become a millionaire making that amount? And you ask yourself, well, number one, if you have a formula, you've put it in place, You've written out the standard operating processes. You have the recipe. You know what happens. You know how to order it. You've written out how the order comes through. You've written out how you get the delivery to the person. And
Right.
that system is working efficiently. Then guess what? You're going to multiply that. So is it scalable? Is the last question you want to ask yourself about your business. And if you can scale it, you're looking at it, okay, now I want to take myself out of the equation. I'm going to add 4 people to that. And then you're making what? Over $1 million in profit. So 4 people doing the same thing. So everybody essentially is bringing in $260,000 a year for you, your business. And then guess what you're doing? Because you are a business, you're cutting a check to your employees, right? So that's kind of like getting to the bag. And so always want to ask people, what is it again that you love to do, and how can we see if this is a business that is going to make you $1 million or more? So that's one thing I love to do for people.
I love that. And so, speaking of people, you're a Muslim woman.
Hmm.
What does this look like in the Muslim community in getting to seven figures, or are there common problems that they face? What does
Oh
that look?
wow. Let me just say that this is it's not very common. Let me just say that it's not very common. It's not that there aren't people doing it. But what I've started learning as I've been, in this arena of, hey, I'm going to focus on Muslim women, I've seen that there are some Muslim coaches out there. I don't hear a lot of them talking about becoming millionaires, but I do hear a lot of them talking about um, being yourself, saying yourself, uplifting yourself, and then of course trying to make some money and or living a lifestyle that is above average. I'll put it that way. And
Mhm.
so amongst what I was saying previously, even when I was like in the coaching program, I was like, man, I know that I'm going to have to lay a foundation of the foundation. And when I say that, it's kind of like I'm saying I have to put something in place to, number one, demystify all of the stereotypes and the myths, because there are myths around Muslim women and money. There are
Mhm.
myths around Black women and money, right?
So
And so having to lay that foundation out first is so essential. And so one way that I do that is trying to, in my newsletter, always speak to what's going on in the mind of so I have a character, and her name is Amari. And so every week she's basically going through the growth scale right now, and every week she talks about specific pain points that are within the growth scale, but it's helping people to know and understand that she can be a part of this too. Muslims can be millionaires too, right?
absolutely.
In wanting people to be millionaires, Muslim men is not as, it's not kind of like looked at. But for Muslim women, the question that I've heard people ask is why? Why would a Muslim woman, want to become a millionaire? And that leads me all the way back to Lady Khadijah. May Allah be pleased with her. And Lady Khadijah was, number one, her name, Khadijah, the word itself means premature, right? And until she was born, this word never existed in the world. And she herself was physically premature, meaning that she was born early. And it led into a life where not only was she premature just physically in her birth, but she was premature in her thinking, meaning she was
Mhm.
always thinking ahead of what everybody else was thinking.
Ah,
She could see things ahead of everybody else. And so when her cousin, Waraka, was basically, he was a Christian scholar. And so it was amongst the time, during that time, it was in the air that there was a prophet that was supposed to be coming. The Christians were getting the signs, everybody in the society were getting these signs that there was a prophet to come. And she had a specific dream where it was so much light that had came to her, and she was in her home and a star landed in her lap. And so she went and asked her husband, Waraka, what is this store? What is this light that came to me? And he tells her, you will be visited by a prophet, and it will be in your home. And so she's, what are you talking about, right? So, of course, the story goes that she was a super successful businesswoman. She had
Mhm.
a lot of money, both through inheritance as well as because her father passed away, but also inheritance and her business. And her business was trade. She did a lot of trade. So she was known as a beautiful woman, extremely kind, and very into social services. And so she was widowed twice. And so, of course, she was had young children. She was looking for someone to marry. And amongst the community in the Quraysh was Muhammad. And Muhammad was known to be a extremely number one handsome young man and extremely trustworthy. People would lay their life down because he was so trustworthy. And so she heard about him and was like, well, maybe I want him to work with me, right? So she sent someone, asked if he would work with her, and it was kind of like his uncle Abu Talib was like, should we work? I don't know if you should work with her, but it ended up that he ended up working with her and also ended up marrying her.
Mhm.
Despite her being 15 years his senior, so he was 25 and she was 40, they had a very beautiful, beautiful relationship in marriage. And inside of that marriage, he received revelation. So he's known in in Islamic faith as the last prophet. And of course, after Jesus. So Muhammad comes, he's the last prophet, he's the seal of the prophets, is what we say. And
Mhm.
revelation, of course, the revelation comes to where? Khadijah's home, right? And so
Mhm.
all of the money that she had, all of the money was lent toward the establishment of Islam in the world. And so this is so important because had she not had that money, the establishment wouldn't have happened. And so when I start talking about when people say, so why are Muslim women wanting to be millionaires? Because we establish things, right? We
Absolutely.
lay foundation of things. And studies show that charity amongst women is much higher than charity amongst men, period, in the world, any and everybody, right? And so when you start thinking of these charitable causes that are in the world, a lot of them are funded by women. They may be ran by men, but they're funded by women, right? So women are some of the greatest funders in the world. And also piggybacking on that, so we know that Lady Khadijah was again a millionaire in the sense of in the time she funded Islam, she funded her community. And then you go into thinking about who had the first university in the entire world. And
Woo.
it was a Muslim woman. Her name was Fatima. So this university exists today. So and it's in Morocco. So if you wanted to go to Morocco and see the first university in the world, it was funded by who? A Muslim woman. She
Mhm.
was also a millionaire. Millions of dollars in order to fund a university and to create a learning center for the world. Such a beautiful place. And of course, there are still students that go to this particular university today. And so when people are asking the question, should Muslim women be getting money? Yes, they absolutely should. Because some of the greatest things that have happened on this earth have been funded by Muslim women
For sure.
and have been the first in the world. So that's exciting. So that's one of the things that I like to always share with people. And that's one of the reasons that I named my business the Lady Khadijah Institute.
Fantastic. So, mentioning name again, tell me, what does Naima mean?
Naimah means good life, comfort, ease, blessings. And so I also have my other two middle names, which are Mwenda and Uhuru. And Mwenda means one who loves, and Uhuru means freedom. And of course, my last name means Abdullah means servant of God. So when you put all those names together, good life, comfort, ease, one who loves people, one who has freedom, and one who is a servant of God, that is me.
That to be the $1 million lifestyle Muslim strategist
Yes,
getting to the bag.
yes, yes, that is me.
Yeah, I see.
100%.
I
Yes.
have another question that I love to ask, given that I am the disrupt her coach.
Yes, disrupt her.
So I would love to know, what have you had to disrupt on your journey?
Oh man, mindset, mindset that again, because even though we've had all of this historical greatness with women and money and establishment, over the years and over the centuries, people's mindset has been that women shouldn't, couldn't, whatever. Sometimes I think that when people think about Islam, they're thinking cultural. They're not thinking religion.
Mm,
And that is something that has to be disrupted. Like, no, you need to understand that that is a culture of a thing. So when people say, oh, well, women, they, especially African American women here in the United States, we dress differently, right? But we still are modest. And so when people are asking the question, you don't wear a veil, or you don't wear a one piece dress. No, because that's cultural. That's where people in different countries wear those specific things. But the religion itself is saying that you should dress modestly. And so I know sometimes when I walk out and go out into the world, people are like, you wear colors? You dress like that? Why are you smiling all the time? I thought Muslim women were, a little bit more subdued. And I'm like, where did you get that from? Right. And so you really have to disrupt the stereotypes that people have put into the world in order for people to see it in a way that is very moderate and understandable. I'll put it that way. Yeah. So I've had to disrupt some of those stereotypes with my own life.
I love it. And the feminine is fierce.
Oh,
So
yes.
don't get it twisted.
Okay. Yes, that part. Love it.
Uh, what what are some actionable tips or advice you would give Muslim entrepreneurs to aspire to create those $1 million milestones?
Oh man. So some of the advice that I would give, number one, as a Muslim, it's important to understand that money, like, of course we know that every money is so fluid, right? And it goes through so many different communities. And
Hmm.
although we already have an issue when it comes to African American people keeping their money within their own community. And
Right.
then it's toppled on top of that when we have Muslims, because again, African American Muslims have a different culture, a different lifestyle. And so when we start thinking about how can we begin to circulate our dollars, we have to think about how can we create businesses that will allow for us to circulate our dollars. And so the first thing, again, is what type of business are you bringing to the community that we don't already have? And so, one of the things also in Islam is that if there is a need in the community, it is mandatory that someone in the community fulfills that need. And so, say for instance, you don't have a doctor in the community, someone should step up and become a doctor. If you don't have a lawyer in the community, somebody should step up and become a lawyer. And so just thinking about the needs in the community, it's so vast, right? And this
Hmm.
also allows for people to be themselves, meaning that I can show up and be who I need to be in the world because I have a place in this world that God put me here. And
Right.
me showing up as myself is 100% what I'm supposed to be doing. And so as I speak to business owners, I'm asking the question, what were you sent here to do? Right? What are you sent here to do? And what are you going to do with the money when you get it?
Right.
Because you can also get money, but money has to be cultivated back into a community to build legacy. And legacy is lasting and it's long. So it's not just about money today, it's about money 200, 300, 400 years from now. And those are important questions to ask Muslim business owners. What kind of business are you building? What are you going to be doing with the money? And how can you build legacy that is going to affect not just the Muslim community, but the world? That's important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Is there anything else you want to share that I have not asked you yet?
Hmm. Well, I do have a free workshop coming up this month. So I have a workshop called Create Her story. And that story is specifically asking Muslim women, if you have a business that you want to start, go ahead and come to this workshop, which is on the 30th. And I will be giving tips and tools on how to create your business. And I'll also be giving tips and tools on how to have more joy when you're a business owner, how to um, be who you are right now, and how
Mhm.
elevate yourself to someone else in the future, who you want to be in the future. And just laying a couple of guidelines out, not giving all of the tools away, right? But that, again, if you wanted to go to my website, www.ladykhadijahinstitute.com, anyone who is interested in becoming a business owner, I'm going to show them the ropes on how to become a business owner. And then also, this is also a workshop that will help people if they have had a business and it's just been sitting around, because we know that that happens too, right? And how can you get your business up and running in a way that is going to start bringing money in the door? And again, how can you create those transformations for people with your product and or service? And how can you begin to scale it so you're not driving yourself crazy, running yourself into the ground with that specific business and or service?
Ashe, Ashe, yeah. Nobody wants to do that. Let's talk a little bit about you personally. Let the folks get to know you from a personal perspective. So, where'd you grow up? Where were your
Oh man.
influences?
So I actually was born in Las Cruces, New Mexico. And yeah, so people were like, what? And a lot of my family on my mother and my father's side still live there. So shout out to Las Cruces. Okay. And then when I was 8 years old, we moved to Texas. And so basically, I was raised in Texas, Dallas, Texas. And I stayed there middle school, high school. And of course, I went to college, went to the University of North Texas. And I didn't finish my degree there. But
Mm,
I ended up, of course, getting married early. I was 20, 21 years old. Um, basically quit school. I was on a track scholarship, lost that, you know what I'm saying? Because I quit school, and then ended up having four children back to back to back to back. So when I
oh,
tell you
wow.
every 2 years, two, it was having, so I have four sons. They're all in their 20s, 29, 27, 25, 23. If you can imagine that.
All boys. I love it. I'm a boy mom too.
Yes,
So,
all boys. And yeah, so I had some really great experiences with my children. I had a lot of growth experiences with them as they were growing up, and I homeschooled them for several years. And then when they were all in school, I was like, well, what am I supposed to do now, right? And so I like to say that I was the decade woman. I was a decade of stay at home mom, and then a decade at working at my place of worship. And now I'm 8 years into the decade of my entrepreneurial journey. So it's
okay.
kind of like, okay, I'm doing these different things every decade. And some of the things that, of course, I enjoy, I'm a triathlete. Um, I've been running for the last 8 years, but I
Mm,
really looked into like swimming, running, and biking. And I was like, oh, I think I can do these things. And so 2 years ago, I actually did a competition of a couple of friends of ours. We all went out and I won a medal. And I was like, what? What? I got a medal? Oh my goodness. I was like, oh, I really can do this now. So it really encouraged me because I
don't
was
tell you nothing.
yeah, I was super excited. I was like, this is my first time and I'm in second place. Okay, I want to do this all the time, right? And
And you
so,
know what? The only thing that beats a fail is a try.
okay, that part. I mean, I just love it so much. And now, um, although I'm training regularly, swimming has become my new thing that I love so much. And so I like to get in the water, swim. I had a goal this year of swimming 60 laps, and I've swam 70 already. I'm talking about at one time.
Oh,
So
wow.
cool. I'm like, okay, today I'm gonna swim 40 laps, and then I was like, okay, you know what? I'm just gonna make a goal. I want to swim 60 laps because 60 laps is basically an Olympic distance. And
Mm.
so I got in the pool after I swam the 40, like the next week, and I was like, let me see if I can do 60.
What kind of time does that take? How much time did that take
Oh
you?
man, I swam 70 laps in about 30 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So my swim time is really good right now.
I too. I'm a swimmer as well, and I'm nowhere near that. I didn't learn to swim until I was in my 40s.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
We've
I've
got a
been swimming since
question
I was
from the
little.
audience here
Okay.
for you. Is your audience only women? Should we refer Muslim men to you as well?
So actually I do work with Muslim men as well. Let me just say this. My ideal client are Muslim women, but I know that there are Muslim men that need this same type of coaching. And so I do have a course where I do teach Muslim men as well. So, yes, refer them all to me. They can all get the business, they can
I
all get the learning,
love it.
leaving no Muslim behind. Okay.
I like it. I like it. I like it. I like it.
I love it.
Um, let's see. What was one of the most challenging moments in your life or career that ultimately shaped who you are today?
Oh, man. This is an interesting question because I've never worked for corporate America.
Mm.
I've only worked for nonprofit organizations because that's who I am. And so when I start thinking about what shaped who I am today, it was in 2014 where I basically had quit working at my place of worship. I was like, I'm retiring. I'm done with this, right?
Right.
And so I was starting my own business. And so because I had worked in my place of worship, everybody in the community, I was helping everybody doing all kind of business stuff. So that's kind of where I started my business. It was called Get It Done. It was Get It Done Virtual Assistant Company because I was helping people create websites and flyers and Excel sheets and project management and events and just doing all of the things. So I said, let me just go ahead and create a business for that. And when I created that business, I have a friend who he was like, "Hey, I know someone who needs some support. Do you think you can give her some administrative support?" And I was like, "Yeah, sure." And so um, I was nervous, of course, because she's not Muslim. And so this was going to be the first time that I had worked with a non-Muslim in the business sector. And so
Mhm.
it was like, okay. So, we started working together and I was doing the administrative assistant things and she was working on a project and it was fundraising strategy. And so she was like, oh, I need to really find somebody who can do kind of like websites. And I was like, oh, I can do websites, right? So we started working on the websites for these classes, right? And then she was like, oh, I need to find somebody who can do this. And so the things that she needed, I was able to basically give them to her, right? And so from there, we just started connecting all of these pieces together and developing this strategy and developing this programming. And so that was a pivotal moment because that's where I really started making a lot of money.
Ah,
And so I want to kind of give her a shout out if I can. So shout out to Lance Lucas and Associates who basically took me under her wing. She literally, yeah, she helped me to navigate in some business spaces that I would have never been able to navigate in, be able to be around some really impactful type of work, which is with HBCUs, nonprofit organizations. Um, and then just to support some of those HBCUs in the spaces of alumni engagement, um,
right.
being an implementation partner. So yeah, that was pivotal for me in terms of business.
So I'd like to ask too, what are you reading or what has influenced you that's already out in the world?
Oh man, besides any of Rachel's stuff, of course, I always read Rachel's stuff. Um, but one thing that recently changed me within the last, I'll say 6 to 8 months, is Women Who Love Too Much. It is a book that specifically talks about what women should be doing and signs of if you love too much. And I know that may sound a little bit strange, but women have kind of created some dysfunctional styles of loving. And yeah, that book has changed me a lot.
Now, do you? This is my lane. So now I got some more questions.
I know that's real.
Do So you said women have created that. Do Is it women that have created that?
Yes,
Because and
yes, I believe so because it's a choice. So we make choices. So when we start thinking about how we love people, we sometimes have a tendency. There's a difference between nurturing and smothering. And so when our insecurities come up, we begin to smother people, and it's really because of us, not because of them.
okay.
We begin to coddle our men, our sons, our husbands. Uh, we make people feel like, hey, we're the super women in the world, but we can't be the super women in the world. We got to take those capes off. And when we wear those capes, that's where, yes, women, we love too much. We're doing too much for a thing. And so it's like, how can we change that? Number one, focus on yourself. And when you begin to focus on yourself, everything around you will change instead of trying to focus on this person isn't doing this, he's not doing this for me, my children. No, focus on yourself. When you change, your outside of you will begin to change.
I agree with that, and I do believe though there are outside influences at play that created that level of dynamic,
Mm-hmm.
especially in our Western culture.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
I see we have this question up here. Let me see. How can women in the Muslim community navigate and overcome the challenges associated with achieving and managing independent wealth while still honoring cultural and religious values? Well, I will say this. Number one, I always like to make sure that the religious values are always number one. The cultural values are always number two. So, how can Muslim women navigate between that? The challenges are that number one, making sure that people around you understand your rights. And so, as a Muslim woman, you have a right to inherit wealth, you have a right to having your own money, you have a right to doing whatever you want to with your own money. And so, if you understand those things, those challenges become less. And then dealing with people that have to also understand those things. And usually the challenges is not necessarily from the world. The challenges comes usually from inside your home. So you
mhm.
want to make sure that you are all on the same page. Your independent wealth is your personal right. And as we like to say in Islam, his money is my money and my money is my money. And that is absolutely 100% true. And so if you understand the context of that, you'll understand that it is his responsibility to maintain you. And so any money that you're developing on your own, you can use it in charity. You're not forced to have to help take care of the household. It is a choice. And when you understand that you have a choice, that's where the challenges can be overcome. It's when people try to put people in a box and say, no, you have to do these things. That is absolutely not true. And so understanding your place as a Muslim woman in the religion, not in the culture, is extremely important.
Very good, very good. Yeah, I love that. And what was that? His money is her money.
Money is my money and my money is my money.
Well, we say that over here too.
I know that's real. Yes.
We say that over here too. I
I
love it. I love it. So we've got about 4 minutes. I
Mhm.
would love for you to share how everyone can find you. I
Okay.
know that was ladykhadijah.com.
Yeah,
And
so I have LadyKhadijahInstitute.com, and you do have to put www. So www.ladykhadijahInstitute.com. You can go on there. I have a membership which you can participate in monthly. That is a very reasonable price, less than $300, ladies, right? And then I have what is called my offer, which is a $10,000 offer of having an 8-week course of not only the growth scale, but an accelerated learning of how you can get your business to 6 and 7 figures. So there is that. And then I also have a retreat, which is the same thing as the $10,000 price point. But what we're doing is we're going on a vacation. So it's a week-long vacation that we take, and it's all about luxury. Because when you start thinking about business and making money and you want to elevate, you have to be in a luxury setting in order to sometimes understand the bigger numbers on a bigger scale. And then,
Mhm.
of course, I also have some just monthly workshops that I do every single month. But if you're a member, you get those workshops for free. So just check it all out on there. And then all of the handles are at Lady Khadijah Institute.
Lady Khadijah Institute. I forgot
Yes.
the institute. Very good. Well,
Yes.
check her out, everyone. She is thebomb.com. And
I love you.
before we go, I love to ask my guests if they have any questions for me.
Hmm. So I do have a question for you. When it comes to interfaith work, how do you see yourself playing a role with Muslim women?
With interfaith work, well, one, I if in my circumstance, I would be curious. I ask questions,
Mm-hmm,
ask how can I support you? What does that look like for you?
mm-hmm,
From coming from my perspective, what do you need?
mm-hmm,
Um, and then how can I be an ally in that?
mm-hmm. I
Yeah.
love that. Okay, so it sounds like we need to be continued our working together.
Yes, for sure. That's why we're here.
Okay, I love
I
it.
love it. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you for being here. Thank you to all who had questions. And we do this every Sunday. We have a new guest coming up next week, and the name escapes me right now because I'm on limited
Let's
sleep.
call the coach. The next coach coming up.
The next time coming up. So meet us here 7 p.m. Eastern. We're wrapping early. There is a time constraint that not nine. Woo, I'm, can't even talk.
Nice.
Naimah has,
Yes,
so we want to honor that as well.
I'm
And so
fasting.
I'm watching the clock to get that done because sometimes these conversations can go really long.
Yeah.
So the goal here when we are in the coaching conversations, it's to expose everyone to what is out there and what it looks like to make an investment in yourself, to be coached. If you have questions, you can get those questions, get coached right here, right on live.
Yes.
Drop your questions and we would be happy to answer them for you. So that's
Yes.
our time today. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you.
Thank you so much. We'll see you later.
See you later.
Have a good evening.
All right.